What is happening, responsible day traders? Today is Sunday, September 20th, 2020. I'm Lindsay Duff, and this is Responsible Day Trading's Weekend Recap. Let's talk a little bit about this week. We did see some pretty big moves. There were a couple of days where it was very, very weak, but there was some great pops that happened. Did I happen to be there for all of them? No, but I was there for one, and it really made my week. I am not looking to bring home a huge amount of points every day. What I work to accomplish more than anything is to remain consistent, to remain balanced, and that when I do trade, that I keep my mind in the game. Some of the things that we did talk about was keeping our mind in the game by deciding what market we were going to trade. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I did this week. I did trade, and I brought this up here because I wanted to talk once again about the correlation between the ES and the MES. Here we have the ES, where I did trade 2 days. I had 13 trades. 32.5 points, which equals $1,625 per contract. And then we come over to the MES, where I only traded 1 day, 5 trades, 8.75 points, which is $43.75 on the MES. Now we can see here, my $875 here would have brought home $437.50 on the ES, where on the MES, that $875 brings home $43.75 because this is $5 a point and this is $50 a point. But we talked a lot about when our head isn't in the game, moving over to the MES, or if you're just getting started, starting with something like that. So we can see what has happened here. We've pulled back up into areas. We've gotten higher than we've ever been in these MACDs before, and we've pushed back down into the zero line. Now, there is a little bit of a difference in the way it looks from the MES to the ES. The MES looks like it's trying to tell us that this zero line and the EMA is going to hold. It's definitely weakened there just a little bit, where we haven't quite seen the weakness happen on the ES just yet. It's still pushing down a little bit, and the MACD is still curling to the downside. So over the week, what we saw, and here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. You can see how tiny these bars are for those previous days, not very big. So the moves weren't very big. The bigger the bars are, the bigger the moves that we saw throughout the day. And so you can see what happened here. We got a little bit of a bigger bar. They're getting just a little bit bigger as we pull back down towards this area, and which gave us some really nice moves to the downside as that was happening. Now you can see we've come back and pretty much equaled that previous pivot point, or that previous low that happened there. We are still sitting at the zero line, and the EMAs that are opened up to the upside. We have made new highs, so we may see this push back up a little bit more. So we have to be prepared for every scenario. Honestly, unless you're a swing trader, you don't have to be prepared for every scenario on the larger tick chart, on the daily chart. You want to see those scenarios happen. In the smaller version, that's how we end up with 13 trades instead of just 1. So whenever this pulls back like this, if this does remain strong to the downside in the BB here, we may see this come back further towards that 3161 area, just a little bit lower. Or what we may see here, as we can see just a little bit of a slowdown here, if that area holds, we may see this pushing back up towards the upside, trying to equal or exceed that previous high. Whenever these moves happen, whenever I'm looking at the daily chart and I'm trying to determine what's going to happen on my smaller charts, I'm never looking at this and saying, oop, the daily chart says down, all we're taking are shorts for the day. No, I'm saying the daily chart says down here, it has a bigger possibility of having bigger moves to the downside, and the smaller moves be moves to the upside. So we've pulled back into this area. It'll be nice to see what it does tonight whenever this starts to pick back up. We do tend to have a lot of overnight activity. So that can really make a difference whenever we're seeing how the day is going to kick off for Monday. You know, I had a pretty good week this week. Do I look at this and I say, oh, I only made $43.75. If I'd have been trading that on the ES, it would have been $437.50. No, I don't say that. What I look at here is ooh, I was consistent in my trades, that I did the exact same thing watching a $5 market as I would do watching a $50 market. And that consistency is what can help us move from different markets and to trade those the exact same way that you see these. And it'll also help us to not worry about the money and consider the right thing to do instead of trying to make the market do what you want it to do simply because you are putting less risk on it. Less risk on a trade does not mean it's going to work out in your favor. You have to still understand where you're anticipating it to go, why, what you're looking for to happen. Now, guys, we all trade a little bit differently. This is my edge. This is what I have found. This is what I've seen over the years of watching this. I've also found a way to be able to explain it to others in a way that when you go through all of the breakdown that I've learned here, that you can put it together as well. And you may be looking for a short trade while I'm looking for a long trade, and we can both be correct. The pullbacks are just as important market movers as the pushes. If we didn't have these pullbacks happening, then the market would run in one straight line. And that does nobody any favors to get into the market, to be able to put a lower risk on it. I get questions all the time about how do I have 1.25 points risk? I'm very specific about where my entry goes. And when I'm not, you may see things like what happened last week where I might get run over a few times. And I know when I'm getting in early, I feel it inside because I start feeling that anxious buildup because I'm trying to push myself to take the trades instead of waiting for the right thing to set up. That does tend to get me stopped out from time to time, but it doesn't stop me from trading. What it does is it says, Lindsay, you have something to learn about yourself here. Are you listening to yourself? Are you listening to the market? Are you breathing? Are you really in it and focused? That's all I've got for you today, guys. Hopefully we have an excellent week. We once again have a tropical storm coming our way in the Houston area. So it's supposed to be pretty bad for the next 2 days. We've heard it before, but just like with things like, building a family, you always want to be prepared. That way there's no oops along the way. We've got a couple of days that might get pretty ugly here. We do tend to lose electricity when that happens, so I may not be able to trade. I'm going to play it by ear, see how it goes. We will be having class next weekend, and tomorrow I'll put out some news. Don't forget you can check the news by going to responsibledaytrading.com. Click on the news button at the top and you'll be able to see what news we have for this coming up for responsible day trading and what financial news we have coming up that we want to pay attention to and be aware of. For the record, I only pay attention to high impact news, but you may find other news more important. So that's going to be it, guys. I hope everybody has a fabulous week. You know where to find me if you got questions. And as always, I look forward to catching you on the profitable side. I love y'all being here with me, so please like and subscribe so we can spend a little more time together.